Hey, 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 hey. Welcome back to the Exchange Place podcast. Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Hey.
How you doing?
We got some heavy hitters in the building, as always, right? We got my brother Q to the left of me.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Yeah, you know him, the real Coach Q. He represented in season 1.
Thank you very much.
And now he's back for season 2.
Yeah.
And this season, we evolving. Yeah, right? Last season, we healed, and now we evolved. And then we got somebody new to the show. We got Shey in the building.
Hello.
Hey, girl.
What's up?
Tap into your dopeness.
Yes.
Now, y'all don't know this, but it's kind of planned but unplanned that both of y'all are here. Y'all both are amazing trainers.
Thank you.
And people who are dear to my heart. And Shey, I just recently met Shey not too long ago.
That's what's cool.
But you know something about me, when I love people, I love them from the beginning. So I am so
Facts.
pleased that you guys
Facts.
are joining me. And in this Involved season, I really thought this season would be an amazing season to really, when I think of evolution, it starts with self. So we're looking at ourselves. So today we're talking about self-awareness, right? And I had this interesting conversation that kind of sparked this episode about knowledge versus self-awareness. And it wasn't, I don't want to say it was an argument because it was never an argument, but it was an amazing exchange because I don't think that they're the same. And the reason I say that is like people who have knowledge of their behavior. When we talk about self-awareness, it's like knowing your behaviors, right? It's understanding your triggers. It is you actually looking within self and saying, actually taking that look in the mirror. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
But it's also, I think when you do that, there's action behind that. Because once you really see yourself, there is something that happens. Like, you're like, ooh, that's ugly. You know what I mean? And there's action behind that. Where knowledge is like, hey, I know that, but I don't really do much about it, right? Yeah, it's like, I know I could be late, but...
That's just who I am.
That's just, that...
Almost narcissistic.
Listen,
That's real.
Definitely narcissistic, but I hear people over and over my whole life, and I'm guilty of this at one point in my life of being like, I have, and I've said this on other episodes, I have the worst temper ever to men. I know people don't believe it, but people who really know me know my temper. My temperament can go from 0 to 100 real quick. And I remember how that made other people feel. Like seeing that finally, like
Scary.
where somebody I loved was afraid of me.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I can get that.
you know what I'm saying? And I was like, wow, I don't like that about myself. You know what I mean? I don't like how that makes other people feel. And I also don't like how I feel. Like, I feel like I'm on fire and I'm about to literally explode. But what would you say, I guess, Q, about knowledge versus self-awareness and where you think that, like, do you think people get there? It's a transition?
I just think that we all have knowledge of who we are. You know?
Do you think everybody does?
I think we all do.
Okay.
Babies don't know who they are.
Okay.
Children know who they are. Mm-hmm. The issue is if you don't find fault in your actions. That's why I said narcissistic. Like, we're not going to change something we don't see a fault in.
Right.
Like, when I didn't see a fault in, quite necessarily, like you said, going from 0 to 100. If I had no problem, there was a time in my life that I actually had a group of young men I spoke with recently, and I said, a good man is not a harmless man. A good man is a man who is disciplined and has learned to control his monster.
Wow. No, that's good.
I said once I realized that discipline, the monster is the inner light. You know what I mean? Once I realized not to let it go and how to control it better, I realized the fault in it. Like, I'm going to every party and fighting. It's not every party, it's me.
It's you.
Now, there was a time there was a time in my life where I didn't care the fact that I was. So I had knowledge of it. I just didn't see a fault yet.
Wow.
When you become truly self-aware, self-awareness is the first part is knowledge. The second part is becoming aware of how your actions affect everyone around you, including yourself.
So actually having an internal and external, because the internal is like, hey, I know it, the knowledge part, and then the second part is like the external, like, so what am I going to do about it? Got you. So what about you, Shey?
I feel the same. Temper is something that, I grew up in a crazy household, toxic, so it was like normal to be going from 0 to 100 real quick. And it was a situation where it was like, well, if you do this to me, then this is what I'm going to do to you because this is who I am. And knowing the knowledge of I feel like sometimes you just don't care. It's like, I don't have to do better. I'm me. That's it.
Wow.
Versus having the internal conversation and saying, just imagine how much further you could be if you just developed yourself a little bit more. And you worked on those inner demons and you worked on those flaws that we don't want to admit that they're flaws. And when I started to do that and I started to do the work, and it wasn't just me by myself, right? You need a community of people that are going to guide you and kind of like they already did that work.
Yeah.
I started to see how much further I really could go.
Yeah.
And I started to see the better people that I had around, like I could attract around myself because I was willing and able to do that work in myself.
Yeah. Community is huge. I love that you said that because I don't think that having the right people around you and having those people that really tell you the truth, right? Or who have enough courage or love you enough to say that, right? For me, I don't know that anybody. I think people told me prior, if I'm honest. And of course, I don't think I could. I think I heard them. I don't know that I could necessarily receive it until I saw it for me. And I can imagine on the other end, and I'm talking to the audience, I can imagine probably what those people felt at certain periods of time. I know my kids were heavily impacted by that. I am definitely the disciplinarian. And especially my oldest son, when I think back to like the level of me that he has received versus me now, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. And I was like you. I grew up in a household where kind of yelling was normal. Being, I don't want to say quick-tempered, but it was acceptable. I also grew up in an environment where I called it protection because I was like the protector. You know what I mean? My friends around me, if you knew something was going down, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, oh no, I know this one is about to go from 0 to 100 real quick. So I almost felt like it was a safety. I think that's why it took me so long.
That's what it is, a safety net.
Yeah.
I was like that too. It was a safety net. It was my protection. I literally just had a speech with some young men, like the same part of that speech. I was like, yo, there's a time in my life where I fed off my anger. My anger was my cloak. Whenever, it was like almost like in that movie, The Hurricane, where where he's trying to come out of prison and he's like, let me out, I'm a protector, I've always saved you. He's like, not no more. Yeah. I had to learn that actually happiness was a much more positive energy, a much stronger energy than anger.
Do you think you looked at happiness as a weakness?
I wouldn't say I looked at it as a. You know what? Yes.
Yeah.
Now that you say, because I used to look at little chipper people like, hey man, I'd eat you for breakfast.
Yeah.
Food if I felt like coming over there.
That was me. I had the face. I know y'all don't get to say, but I didn't smile a lot back then.
Same.
I had this and I still can have it. I still have it. And again, apply it when it's applicable. But I still have that face. But I knew it was kind of my protection. It was kind of my shield from people because people wouldn't approach. You know what I mean? It would keep. But I also grew up in an environment where I needed to be protected. You know what I mean? And I needed to have a level of awareness around me to know when I should go to 100 and not. But I think I applied it in the wrong areas. And it definitely 100% impacted. It impacted my life. I think I lost some relationships from that. I don't know that people would ever have the heart to tell me. Don't laugh at me. She's
gonna go at 100.
She's like, she gonna go to 100.
Yeah, just stop hanging out with you.
Yeah, but I think I lost some relationships, whether they were valuable or not. I think again, in where I am now in life is probably not. But I definitely think I lost some relationships. I think that people. In my self-awareness journey, but I think that people were aware of it, and it did push them away a little bit.
That was to try and catch your attention.
Yeah.
And you still weren't able to catch it. I think all those different moments are just things catching our attention. You keep making the same mistake until you fix it.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think enhances our self-awareness? Outside of, I know, Shay, you already said like community, right? But like once you've seen yourself, what makes you keep seeing yourself? Because for me, I find in my evolution, at one point I'm like, okay, I'm healed from this. I'll be like, ooh, I still got work to do. Like something will come up and trigger that. So like what do you think enhances your self-awareness?
For me, a big pivotal point for me was when one day I was sitting down in my room and my daughter was like, you never smile.
Wow.
And it like, I still do the work.
How old was she when
she was like
that?
5.
Wow.
4 or 5 years old. She's like, you never laugh, you never smile. So even though when I had her, I decided I needed to make a change because a lot of the things that happened in my life were my fault. Like, not to be feeling sorry for myself, but we got to take accountability. Like when things happen to you, you play a major role in that situation. Yeah. But she's 10 and it still takes time. I'm still learning myself. I'm still learning the things that I need to change. And so when she said that to me, I was like, if my daughter at 5 years old notices the misery on my face, imagine the rest of the world, because she's only 5.
Wow.
So imagine my coworkers, the people that I train. Imagine, imagine the people that I surround myself with who maybe are more positive than I am, because I too looked at positivity and happiness as a form of weakness. I looked at it as, I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to show you I'm hard. Like, you ain't going to hurt me first. And
where do you think that comes from, though?
Our environments.
Yeah, it's the environment.
Yeah, I mean.
It's definitely the environment.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah, you can't, like, I've never felt like walking, like, when I was younger, it was like, you walk around like that, you're going to get robbed. Mm-hmm. Like, you the easy mark.
Wow.
And that's messed up, but that's kind of how a lot of places are, especially urban environments. And I'm going to take that back. It's not just urban environments, because I've lived in suburban areas too, and if you're the happy, chipper kid, you usually get bullied.
Picked on.
But picked on. Because everybody else is filled with so much negativity. That's why you look at that person like that. When a person is positive, and you look at them over there like, why are they so happy and they get on your nerves? Their positivity is actually repelling you.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's protecting them. Their positivity is protecting you from your negative nature. You need to go over there and find out what's making them smile.
Yeah.
I learned that later in life, but, I was like, when I was young, I was like, I can't, if I do that, they're coming. Yeah. So in order not to keep getting bullied, like once I stopped the bullies with the hands, it became okay. The hands work.
People know not to bother and not to do anything. I love what Shay said about her daughter saying that you don't smile. You like, Mom, why don't you smile? Why don't you? It reminds me of how I used to be, and I felt like, especially in rearing my children. And part of that, I don't know if they would say that, but part of that I'm grateful for, not necessarily how I did it, but I think they did learn something that they wouldn't have got from those places. And parenting, for the people that are listening, listen, I think that's a misconception we have, and that most people have, and that children have of their parents, is that we're not still growing. Like there's some imaginary thing that like, oh, when you become a parent, you're completely finished growing. We never stop growing.
No, you never stop.
I'm gonna grow till I go. Like
I remember a woman told me, "You've never arrived until you died."
Yeah,
and it's the truth.
I love that.
I like that.
She said,
love that.
I like that.
If you feel like you've arrived, then you already stopped. you're dead. Your growth is dead.
Wow.
And it's true.
It is true. It is true. We never stop growing. I always say, like, I'm going to grow until I go. Like, I'm going to learn till I leave here. Because it's like, I never stop learning about myself. I never stop learning new things that even in one season where I'm like, I got this. In the next season, God be like, you don't got this.
You still need me.
You still, I'm always going to need him.
That's also the fact that it makes you, that's what makes self-awareness happen, because something humbles you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something humbles you and it forces it upon you.
Yes.
Because before that, that's why you had the attitude, like, I'm good, I'm straight.
What about the people that never get there,
No, you
though?
get humble moments, too. They're just not humbled enough. That's all. That's why the moments are going to get worse.
Right.
Wow.
It goes from a fist fight to getting jumped to getting shot at. Like, I'm using violent analogies, but that's what happens.
Yeah, but I think there's people in and I had a conversation with Am, and we were talking about the knowledge versus self-awareness. And we were talking about people, she's like, some people, she was calling it self-awareness, and this is where I was disagreeing. I was like, I don't think that's self-awareness. I really think that's just knowledge of, right? And I said to her, I was like, there's so many people sometimes you want to, I don't want to call it save, but you ever seen somebody and you see them sinking?
And you're like, if you only knew your potential.
If you only knew. And it's just like, year after year, you're doing the same thing. You're having the same behavior. And I don't care if it's at a job. I don't care if it's at a relationship, that you're having that same, you're meeting, for the people that are dating. If you keep on meeting that same person in a different, he a different shade, right? Girls, for the guys, she a different shape or color, her hair a little curly, her hair a little straight. But the result is still the same. It's you, sis. It's you, bruh. Like, do you know what I mean? But yes. I think people, even in the dating realm, and let's take it there, right? Even in the dating realm, a lot of times we hear, in dating right now, child, I know Q, you married. And Shay, I don't know your status, right? But I just feel like everybody's blaming everybody.
Right.
But people aren't, even though we're calling it this healing season, and some people are healing, don't get me wrong. There are people who are really taking the time that they need, really doing the work, really, you know what I mean, digging in. Because I'm one of those people. I work hard on me. I'm probably the hardest person on myself, and I have to be gentle. I know Shay looking at me because she just posted about this. I'm learning also to talk nice to myself in being important. Hard on me, right? Because we talk to ourselves 10 times more, right? Yeah. Right. However, I just feel like a lot of people aren't really doing self. It's like the men are horrible now. They're not. They're not. There are good men.
Thank you.
They are.
Absolutely.
No, there are good men.
That's real.
Now, but are you prepared? I think this is my question. I even ask myself, am I prepared for a good man?
Can you steward a good man?
Can you steward a good man? Can you handle what you're praying for, right? And a lot of times people don't have the courage to say that to themselves, right? Yeah. It's like, and we sometimes we surround ourselves with people who are just like, girl, men is whatever, and bruh, you know real. What I mean? They all want my money.
Thank you. It wasn't about me. Thank you. It was
Yeah.
actually for the fact that I think a lot of people need to hear that it's not all bad coming from women. It's not all bad coming from men. Right. Stop saying that. Stop digging that hole deeper. Stop making that hole. Divide.
I was about to say, stop bridging. Stop extending the gap, and let's start bridging the gap, because if we really get more self-awareness, if we have, like now, and I can't say that, again, I'm not perfect or whatever, but I know a year ago versus right now, 2 years ago versus right now, going into a relationship, my mindset is so different. Like it's so different. And so often I think both people are looking for that other person to fill in the gaps, fill in the holes, come and fix you. No. Fix yourself. That is not the other person's job.
The main part with, like, even marriage life is like that. That's why people grow apart, because you're not doing the, if you're in the middle of self-awareness, like you're saying, and I'm developing myself, and your partner's not,
Yeah.
it's going to cause the divide. It's going to cause the moment that causes all those issues.
Yeah. I think that happens in all relationships.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
On any level, dating or not. Because marriage is just dating permanently with one person.
Right.
That's all it is. It's not anything crazy. It's dating one person permanently forever.
That's good.
What it is.
That's what marriage is.
Like, we've talked about this before. Like, where I get mad at people who have certain statements. Like, yo, are you happy? Dude, did that matter? My commitment level had none of... My commitment is based on discipline, not on if I'm happy.
That's so good.
Whether it's a minute ago I was mad, an hour... I could be mad at her for a month. I'm still committed.
Amen.
Yeah.
It's a discipline. I saw it yesterday. It's crazy. It said, you get started... You as a trainer understand what I'm saying. When people first get started training, they buy all the clothes. They call you constantly. They like all your pictures. They on everybody's... Every influencer's on their page now. I used to buy workout magazines. The motivation gets you started. The discipline keeps you there. That's the difference.
And it turns, now that you mentioned that, because I actually mentioned this in a live, where your discipline then becomes desire, and that desire becomes devotion.
Yes.
Right? So you become devoted to whatever it is you're doing. And the problem is we as humans want to have a feeling. And feelings are fleeting.
Yes.
So you have to commit to doing the work when it comes to love, when it comes to fitness, when it comes to relationships, whatever it is. And nobody's teaching those things.
Yeah. Nope. I think that's a great space, because I don't think, I love that you said it turns to devotion. Like, I thought about that in two aspects, of course, because I'm thinking God, right?
Yes.
But I'm thinking devoted to, right? But like devotion is something that, for those of us who believe in God, whatever you call him, just the level of like, you know what I mean? Devotion in the morning. I think about what I give to them.
And it is a level of worship.
It's
when you
worship.
It is. And I'm building your house.
Yeah.
I'm asking you to live in this house. I should make it nice for you, right?
Yeah.
It's your house. It ain't just about the physical outlook of working out. That's the bonus.
Yeah.
That's the bonus.
I always say that. That's the byproduct.
It's the byproduct. Your inside is what feels good.
That's good.
I let go of every stress in my body when I did that push-up.
Wow.
When I know I'm physically strong enough to stand into whatever is coming at me, is something different inside you. Your self-esteem changes. That's also self-awareness. A lot of people, because they don't work out, have issues. If you worked out more, I'm not saying you got to go be a power lifter. I'm not saying you got to be a CrossFit. I'm not saying you got to run marathons.
You got to figure out what works for you.
Yes, whatever works for you, start doing it and watch how it changes your outlook on life.
Yep.
It honestly will change how you how can I word it? Like the young men I was training yesterday, I looked at them in my comments to them when it was over I said, yo, we did the circuits, we did the running, we did all that stuff. I said, now you feel stronger, right? I said, one day you got to protect an entire family.
Wow.
Do you want your family's not going to feel safe unless you can make yourself feel safe? How you going to make them feel safe? I told my son, I was like, yo, do you feel safe walking next to me on the street? Yeah. Why? And I feel like I can protect you because I'm physically strong enough to. It's got nothing to do with me being tough. It's in here. It changed how I thought about myself. That self-awareness, there's a time when I felt weak. That's why I started doing the push-ups. It was a long time ago. I was like 11, but it's what it is,
Yeah.
It's just, I didn't mean for that to sound arrogant either.
Nah, it's fine.
It just comes out that way sometimes.
But I think that's not arrogance. I think it's just, it's a confidence.
It's confidence.
Godfidence, right?
Yeah.
Yes, there you go. I like that.
We are supposed to feel like that.
Everyone's supposed to feel like that. It's not just me.
Yeah, nobody. I truly believe, and I always say this: God didn't put us on here to be miserable, broken, broke. He put us on here to thrive. He literally said, be fruitful and multiply, and that's just not children.
I was about to say, I think people look
kids.
at that.
I don't think that's kids at all.
I don't think it's kids
the
at all.
feeling I get when I work out. I want you to have that feeling. I want you to have.
It's the exchange.
I want to multiply that into everybody. It's everything.
Yeah. It's the exchange of that feeling to everyone else. And if people could get that more, you know what I mean? And I think
happier.
Understand that more.
It'll be easy to date.
It'll be easier to do everything.
Yes.
I think people would be living on a different level. My pastor always talks about level 3 living, right? And it's the level that you thrive. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you can survive. And most people live on surviving, right? But the level that you thrive, and I think, again, depending on where you are in your self-awareness walk, I'm going to call it that, I think Thrive looks very different because Thrive is not monetary.
Right.
Right? I'm rich within, right? I'm full within. Like, I have something more than that. And that, for me, changed that frown that I used to have to a smile because I understand that. I understand that even in this moment that we're sitting here, like, this is a blessing. When people listen to this, this is a blessing to be able to share. Like, yo, I haven't always been here, but it's possible. And I believe that there's a different level of even where I am. Like, I'm like, it get better than this.
I always say
it get better than this.
When the adversity happens, I'm always like, you know what? It's all good because I know God got better.
It's the workout. Adversity is the workout. I really tell adversity in your regular life is the workout. It's just like, do you really think that doing those push-ups, like one more rep is going to be harder? Yes. But it's the same thing as, you wake up, you have this whole goal in your mind and you're set, and then boom, somebody passes away in your family.
Yeah.
Now, are you going to stay disciplined to your goal? Or are you you have your breakdown moment. It's allowed. Mourning has to happen.
Oh, yeah, it has to happen.
That mourning does not stop you from, let's say for example, you decide to write a page a day for your book. You still got to write that page.
Yeah.
And that page is going to turn into one of the best pages in your book because of the energy that's going into that page. That's when it's necessary to go do that workout.
Listen, so I'm reading this book called Compound Effect.
Oh, that's such a good book.
Just finished it. And it's blessing me. And it's not anything, again, we don't know, right? But recently, and I'm going to share because I'm always transparent. And I think people need to know this because if not, we get a false view. Or we get optics that we feel like this person is always in this particular place, right?
That ain't real.
And recently, it's just been, what are we're in September now, right? So this whole year, I've been doing a lot towards like my dreams and my purpose and things that God had spoke to me years ago, right? And I got to this really crazy place that I was just like, I felt like, A, I wasn't doing enough, right? B, I hadn't done enough. I don't know. And I was like really in my own head, like fully discouraged. The Compound Effect, and I like listeners, when I tell you it is worth the read. Yes. My car is my classroom, so I always do audiobooks. So of course I read it on audio or listen to it on audio. But the Compound Effect is like consistently commit to whatever that thing is for you. And it looks different for everybody. And I'll give you an example. So like I read 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night. And even if I fall asleep on my book at night, it's like what my mind thinks about all during the night and not negative or TV and that kind of things because input matters, right? But it talks about the compound effect is basically the steps that we take to get to the moment. Right? Because everybody is like waiting, and I don't want to say everybody, but I'm going to talk about me. For my whole life, I was waiting for this moment for my life to change. Not realizing that these small steps towards that equal that moment.
Yep.
So that moment, and that moment up here that I'm waiting for takes all of these steps. And sometimes in those steps, we get discouraged. And I had to remind myself Friday, I think I posted just all, because I needed to remind myself. I'm like, listen, you put something down 3 years ago. You picked it back up. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Yep. You're called to this space. There is an audience for your anointing. Like, I had to start talking to myself. I was like, you're bugging. You're bugging. Nah. You know what I mean? There's somebody who's sitting on, like, taking one step is better than taking no steps.
Yep.
So take it daily. And it's teaching me, that book taught me, like, take one day. I know we say it, take one day at a time. Sometimes you're going to have to take a step by step by step, but commit to, like what you said, commit to that thing. Like, because we're all going to reach this wall, like this wall that we feel like, but what really makes that moment that you're trying to get to is being able to, like, you know what? I don't feel like it. I'm writing a book. I don't feel like it sometimes. Even if I do a little bit, I'm like, I got to do something. And then to look back and be like, look how much you got. I know you're not finished yet. I know you're not finished, but you're almost there. And that is life. That's a life lesson for everybody who's listening. Like, in everything you do, in parenting, hey, I knew to change and smile more, right? Hey, I know to go and work out. Yes, I lost somebody. Yes, like take those self-starting steps, like, so you are more aware, not only aware of what you need, but like aware of where you're going. And it's not going to be overnight.
Never.
No.
It's never going to be overnight. Like, people say overnight success. No, you just see the success part. You didn't get to see it. Like, you haven't seen how much, like,
you see me crying.
Yeah,
you didn't see me
right.
crying in the shower. You didn't see that part of it.
You didn't see when I wanted to
happen.
quit.
Yes.
You know, because how many times, like that wall, I feel like sometimes we use the wall as an enemy, but I feel like that wall is really
That's that
rest,
moment.
breathe, and look at how far you've come.
Wow.
And then go through that wall and keep going.
And keep going.
Yeah.
And the wall is not our enemy.
No, the wall is actually our congratulations.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
And-
like next level.
Yeah.
I feel like what is it? The Mario Brothers.
Because I know I can do. Because the wall lets you know you're capable of more.
Right.
Yeah.
The wall lets you know that. Once you get there and you're like, man, I'm wasting. It's because you're capable of more now.
Right.
Because you're stronger than you were. 'Cause
Wow.
you did everything you just finished doing.
So I'm laughing because God always gives me visuals. So when you were talking about the wall, is it the Mario Brothers that he used to have to jump from
And
this
break it.
thing
Yep.
and slide down and
Just like
grab the
that.
flag, slide down, and you went to your next level.
Yep.
And getting over the wall
Yes.
and getting to that flag and like sliding down is literally what that
That's
wall
like your
is.
sign.
It's
That's
your
honestly
sign,
your
like
that
this.
you're about to level up again.
Yeah.
Matter,
It's another
you're right
level.
with the rest because it's about to get harder
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Oh
And
no! Listen, every level it's a different level. I always say, listen, it's a different level of prayer that I'm gonna need in
Yeah.
this level.
Yes.
You're not ready for what you asked for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We talked about that. Sometimes you ain't ready. You ask for stuff and then you don't realize why you're going through what you're going through.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because you had to get stronger.
Yeah.
That's self-awareness. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Leveling up. That's it. Everybody
so
ain't meant
true.
to. Everybody's not meant to.
It is. It is that's. I was gonna say exactly that. Like that wall is a form of your self-awareness, where it's like I get excited now when I hit a wall because I'm like, if I'm hitting this wall, that means it's time to level up, go to the
Yeah.
next, the next one. You know
It's
what I mean?
it's the next level.
Yeah, I mean it's hard.
No,
You hit
it's
the
not-
wall.
look.
You be like,
Ugh.
sometimes you question, right? Sometimes you got to get into your faith. Like, is it really for me? Am I really the one that's
Am I
supposed
really
to do this?
supposed to be doing this? And I get there all the time. I really. There are so many times I question me, and it's so good. I think that God has surrounded me with people who keep, even when they don't know, like, so he called me out of the blue, not out of the blue, but the other day.
I hit you up, yeah,
He
like
hit
a
me
weekend
up,
ago, yeah.
and like he didn't even know where I was.
Didn't.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I just be like, okay, Lord, I know. You need that reminder sometime
Oh, yes.
that what you're doing not only matters, and the work that you're doing, that self-awareness, that work that you're doing behind closed doors. Like, I think that, again, that moment and those levels are proof to what you're doing that people don't get to see. Like, that reward that you get is from what you did in private that
Right.
people don't know. You have no, I always people say you don't know the cost. And I'm not talking about financial. I'm talking about you don't know the cost of the oil. Like, you don't know the cost of the anointing. You don't know what it costs to even be able to sit here with you guys. And I know you got your own costs that y'all paid to even be here. Like,
real.
you don't know the cost of people's things. So sometimes, especially with looking at self, I know sometimes we get into looking at others. You don't know what that cost them.
Yeah. To get to sit in that chair.
To sit in that chair, you don't know what it cost them to be
You're
able
gonna pay a price.
Yeah, to be able to impact and influence the level of people that you don't know the cost of that.
And the sacrifices,
Yes.
right?
Because you got to sacrifice.
Yeah,
do.
that's part of the cost.
That is, it is.
the cost.
That's
It is the cost.
That
It is the cost.
that is the cost.
It
That's
is the cost.
That is the cost. So I'm sitting here like I'm blown away. I know I say this often, but in these exchanges, I always learn so much more.
Okay.
And that's why I love this space, because it's not about us. It's us sharing, but it's also us getting to a place that we're exchanging with each other. And I leave here, no matter who comes in this space, I leave here and I always leave full.
Feel better, yes. I'm
I feel
grateful for
full.
being here.
Absolutely.
I feel
Same.
full from this conversation.
So do I.
So I know we're about to wrap up, but I just want to know if you have any words of wisdom that you want to leave the people with about self-awareness and or hitting that wall. Q?
Well, I'm going to personally suggest that everyone goes on YouTube. Mm-hmm. We spoke about this.
Yeah.
And you look at personality traits, all right? The reason I say that is because, one, it's going to let you recognize you're not alone. Mm-hmm. Two, if you're really looking at it, you're going to come to a place, and like when I first watched it, I watched 6 Dynamics of a Male, and I said, all right, which one am I? There was 3 that called out to me. The reason they called out to me is because you look at all the positive things in it first. It wasn't until I looked at the negatives in it that I realized which one I was. You know, I realized I'm a Sigma male. I'm not an alpha male, I'm not a beta, a gamma, an omega. I'm a Sigma male. Why am I a Sigma male? Because I'm manipulative. A lot of people don't want to look at what's like an alpha male. They're a control freak.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to say something to yourself that is not necessarily always a positive.
Yeah.
And when you accept that thing even my manipulative traits, they're not gone. I just use them in a more positive way now.
Gotcha.
Like you can find a way to take your negative and turn it into a positive if you're willing to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, like I tell people all the time, honesty is what my mother had on the wall. Honesty is the road to starvation. Because you got to starve those things out of you that make it that mess you up. Let them go. That's pretty much it. It's on YouTube. Check it out. It's good. Wise Wonders. That's I think the guy. Wise Guy. That's the name of the guy's channel.
Okay.
6 types of male and female personality traits. Go look it up. Check it out. It was a beautiful thing to watch. I sent it to tons of people.
It's worth watching. I was one of those people.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna look that up.
Yeah. Shay, if you had some words of wisdom, what would you leave the people with?
I would say back to the self-awareness and looking at other people. I think when we start looking at ourselves, we start getting the things that we are envious of in others, right? Because a lot of people see you hitting the tip of the iceberg and saying, why not me? Yeah. Or she doesn't deserve that, or he doesn't deserve that. And like you said, you don't know the cost. You don't know how much it costs that person. So why don't you start putting in the work and start building your cost? And start focusing on that, because when we start focusing on our demons, our personality traits, all the things that we don't want to admit to ourselves, there's help out there, whether it's YouTube, whether it's a book, whether it's a community of people, whether it's your kid telling you, why don't you smile, whether it's a prayer in the air, like it's out there, but we have to focus on us and really just want to have that desire to want to do better, and not for us, because truthfully, and I don't want to say his name wrong because I always do, but there was a male speaker who said, like, our purpose on this earth is to leave it better for the next generation to come. So when you start doing the work for you, you're leaving a space much more clear for the generation coming after you to not have to deal with those curses and bondages that we're dealing with now. Yeah. So for me, that's what it is. Focus on yourself so that we can then pave a way for our children, our grandchildren, our nieces and nephews to not have to deal with those things that we've been dealing with all this time.
Yeah. I love that. My words of wisdom would be okay with looking in the mirror and having tough conversations with yourself. It's okay. Like it's going to be okay. We're not perfect. And I think that once we actually understand that and are okay with saying, hey, I'm wrong in that situation, and really taking the responsibility and not placing it on anyone else, but looking within and making changes, even if they're small changes. Like, hey, I know I could pop off. So when I'm in those situations, maybe I should walk away.
Right.
Yep.
Or, hey, I know I'm always late. Let me put an alarm on. You know what I mean? Because your lateness affects other people. It's not just about you. And we stop thinking, even though we're doing self-awareness, but we start thinking the outer part and the exterior effects and impact that it has on other people, our children, the generations that come behind. I tell my kids, and this is literally my life goal, is that my kids' would benefit from who I am.
Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely.
And that regardless if I'm physically here or not, that even the things that I leave them would be present in those generations. You know what I mean? They're going to be like, Big Mama said.
That's true.
You want to be the great grandma they all talk about.
Exactly. I want to leave that for them. And I'm seeing it's possible.
It is.
I'm seeing that. And this almost makes me cry. I'm seeing that in my children. I have conversations with my boys, and I always talk about it that leave me speechless. And I'm like, I could have never had that with my parents. I didn't have that, and it's not disrespectful. I had utmost respect for me. But they have a different perception at 19 and 14 than I could have ever had.
Yeah, that's real.
And changing them is changing the generations after. And if I could do that, literally, I change the world.
Yeah, you do.
It's that simple. Yeah, you're right.
It's that simple. It's that simple.
It's literally, like Michael Jackson said, start with the man in the mirror.
Yes.
Yeah.
Start with the man in the middle. So we'll see you next week. See y'all later.
Bye.